Saloni here, 700 WLW. So, how did the topic of environmental responsibility become so polarized? You're just the environment, right? We all like to go outside and breathe clean air, go to the parks, wherever it might be. If you're Greta Thunberg, I'm not trying to hear you. The world isn't going to end before the season finale of Survivor. Likewise, if, I don't know, you're the Cook brothers, for example, the science is pretty clear the planet is changing. I mean, you got oil money trying to protect your investments, and that, I get why you're trying to convince me, and, you know, seating people who will be your mouthpiece. I understand. I know how the world works, but, you know, as always, the truth is in between the extremes. To answer that question is Chuck Lurie. Chuck is the chair of the Greater Cincinnati Earth Coalition. Earth Day, of course, is approaching, I think, next month. Chuck, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Scott.
Yeah, of course. The problem is, and I guess because you've been in this for a long time, you have people who absolutely want to change the planet overnight. If they were up to them, they would get rid of all fossil fuels immediately. Somehow, I don't know how you would do that. On the other hand, people are saying everything's fine, it'll sort itself out, which we've got to be better stewards of the planet for sure. But how did Earth Day or the environmental, how did this become, and conservation, all that stuff, and climate change, how did it get so polarized? How did we get to the point today where we don't even hear each other?
Well, that's a good question. Luckily, we don't have that much of the polarization here in Cincinnati.
Do you have a sense that, like, we care, but we can only do so much?
Every little bit helps. It's a lot of initiatives. I mean, something that the city's focused on is just reducing food waste. You know,
right.
30% of waste that goes into the landfill is food, which can be recycled. Mm-hmm. And you know, some of these things make just common sense.
Yeah, I remember touring. I was volunteering at Matthew 25 Ministries a few years ago, and it was remarkable to me, Chuck, that if you go in there and there's a lot of clothes and sundries and things like that, but sample products from P&G, for example, like, I don't know, sunscreen, let's say, or the Campbell Soup Company. If the label was crooked on a can of soup, they couldn't sell it. It's not that they want to. The law says you can't sell it. So you had all these cans of soup that were perfectly fine that in the past would have ended up in a landfill. Ditto for the sunscreen and all these other products. And instead, Matthew 25 ships it to war-torn or natural disaster-stricken countries to help people there, along with the clothes. Like Cintas may have a misprint on a logo on a shirt or a name tag. That would end up in a landfill usually. They do a wonderful job of this. And that's something when it comes to environment and helping people, helping mankind. And you're right about that. It's like, well, that's common sense stuff. You know, the food waste. Restaurants throw a ton of food away. Could that be better suited to going to homeless shelters? I know there's a lot, there's organizations that do that in Cincinnati, but do it on a bigger scale. Stuff like that. Like sometimes the laws and health code and are in direct conflict with this thing. That's just all common sense slam dunk stuff that whether you believe in climate change or you think it's all made up, I think we can all agree on that. That's a good idea.
Well, yeah, and the city's just rolled out composting bins all throughout the city in each of the 52 neighborhoods. I just got one here at Mount Storm Park in Clifton. So it's free for 3 months. You just call it up, sign up, get your code, and you can put your compostable food waste in there.
And then you turn that into what? Mulch, right? You could throw it in your garden or in your lawn?
Yes, the Common Orchard Project here in Cincinnati turns it into mulch, and then they sell that. And but it's a terrific process, and I'd like everybody to check out the Common Orchard Project.org and make this composting test a success for these first 3 months.
I tried that years and years ago. And I was really bad at it. It seemed like it should be pretty easy, but I struggled mightily with it, Chuck. I forget, it's so long ago I forgot, but I was like, okay, I got some leaves in the yard, and I did that, and you put layers in the whole thing, and I think it's still sitting there. I don't think it's composted at all. I think Mother Nature hates me.
Oh, I'm sure it's composted by now. But it's easy to do, just coffee grounds, food waste, don't put tape in there, and cardboard is great. You know, you just layer it, but give it a try. All the instructions are on the bin. You'll see them. They're all around the city now.
Yeah, they made it much easier, I think, and accessible for people too. I think the problem with the divide we have with environmentalism, and it's become so polarized, is there's friction points, right? There's like a small inconvenience that stop people from taking action, even though they want to. Do you see that around here a lot? I mean, I mentioned the difficulties, or at least in my mind, with composting. It's kind of a small step. I got to throw stuff out anyway. Why not do that? But it's like, wow, it didn't work for me. Are there other friction points like that just prevent people from being better about it?
Well, riding a bicycle, the Queen City Trails has created a great matrix of bikeable paths. You know, the bike paths along Central Parkway just removes that barrier that it's too dangerous to interface with cars. Now you have your own bike lane.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think, though, too, that, you want to go to work. Do you want to? I mean, there's some days where it's absolutely beautiful. Love to ride my bike. But, for most of the weather we just had over the winter, and then, of course, the summer is brutally hot as well. For a lot of people, that's a turnoff.
Well, start in little parts, just bike when you can. So we've got great bike trails to do that.
What about topping off your gas? I'm a topper, Chuck. I'll be honest with you. I know there's signs up all over. Don't top off your fuel. I got to hit that number exactly on the gas pump. I'm a bad person, right? I
think they're saying don't fill up after sunset, or try to fill up after sunset when the emissions aren't going to be that large.
And the lines are shorter there too. I got to hit that exact number. If it's like, $50, I got to hit $50 on those. Otherwise, I got to go up to 51. It drives me. The OCD is real in my life. He's Chuck Lorre with the Greater Cincinnati Earth Coalition, and talking about how we got so divided, whether you're either on the Greta Thunberg side or the, hey, it's all a lie and it's all made up and it's all politics side. There's no oxygen left in the room to say, hey, could we be better at protecting the environment? I think the other element here too that gets lost, Chuck, is we also have to recognize we live here and now and today, that with the debate over fossil fuels, for example, oil is going to be around. We're going to be dependent on it for our lifetimes and probably the next couple lifetimes. It's just the way it is. I think people say we've got to do more in America. Maybe it's more the little things like you're talking about, but the big seismic changes and switching all over to solar and wind and renewables is a tough ask. Is it reasonable to admit as an environmentalist, like, the people who want to do this overnight are equally out of their minds?
Well, it's not going to be done overnight. I mean, it's a small process. Put solar on your house, drive an electric car are both becoming less expensive, and that'll really drive it.
But the problem with EVs, of course, it still depends on fossil fuel to charge that vehicle.
Well, the city of Cincinnati has invested a lot in some solar arrays. 20% of the city's electricity comes from their solar array. It's a lot of small bites of the apple.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If you can convert solar to energy, I mean, do it. It's because the technology is getting better. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And we also have to consider we live in America. When you talk about what's happening here, I think we're much better environmental stewards than, let's say, China or India for sure. And that's the problem. We've got to compete with their economies. I think that's a realism that some environmentalists don't want to recognize. It should be more on us. But if they're not doing it, if they're not leaning into it, can what we do here offset that?
Oh, absolutely. We have the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. You can recycle every type of plastic at the hub. It's an amazing resource, and literally everything, even your jeans and aluminum foil, it's all recyclable.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. You hear is that sometimes if you put stuff in recycling containers, which I recycle, but there's been some studies done or reports anyway that indicate that maybe not all that stuff gets recycled; it just gets thrown in the landfill anyway. Is that true, or are we getting better at that at the recycling end?
Oh, not at all. Rumpke loves to give you tours. We're lucky to have Rumpke. They have the best recycling program in the country. They take a lot of stuff. The hub will take the rest. Yeah, it's important to know what you can put in those recycling bins. It's not wish cycle.
Right.
Don't put styrofoam in there because you wish they could recycle it.
But if it has that little logo on it, does that mean it's recyclable? You know, the little triangle made with arrows? I thought that meant that's recyclable.
Only specific ones in the Rumpke bins, but the hub, they take all those numbers.
And that is, again, it's another one of those little hurdles, right? You look at it going, well, I don't know if Rumpke's going to use this. If I put, Kroger bags in there, we can't recycle those because it gums up the machine. But it seems like they change the standards all the time. Like they're getting better at recycling different things. And I think that's one of those roadblocks for people, right? Is like, wow, you're overwhelming with all this minutia. I want to do the right thing, but you're making it more difficult. I mean, at some point, hopefully we'll be able to throw all our trash in and they'll sort it all out using AI and lasers and all this other cool technology, but we're not there yet.
Well, other countries like Japan, it's a culture of recycling. Germany, it's a culture. You go to the train station in Germany, there's 6 different recycling bins, even for different colors of glass. So it starts with the parents teaching the kids, starts with the kids teaching the parents. But it is an education.
Why do you think they lean into that more than we do here? Because you have 2 recycling bins, and it's confusing. I'd stand there for a half hour if I had 6 trying to figure out which one to throw it in. How come there it's more ingrained, here not so much?
Well, it costs more. Gasoline costs more in Germany and Japan, and resources cost more. So we're lucky here in the States to have huge, landfill hills. But as we get more developed, that'll be have the same problems that Japan and Germany do.
Chuck Lorre's here from the Greater Cincinnati Earth Coalition. I'm talking about common ground here between the sky is falling environmentalists and the sky is not falling deniers. And it's those two entities take all the oxygen out of the room, and there's little things you can do to help, but how much is that really going to move the needle? And it's a good conversation we're having here. We also, as a state, have a complicated relationship with environmental regulation, EPA, and the like, because we have an energy history, we have a legislative history with that. Is that hard to navigate here while still making progress at the local level?
Well, the Ohio Environmental Council lobbies the legislature to help make it easier for 2 houses to get together and put solar panels that both houses share. One state has recently adopted where you could just plug a solar panel into the outlet into your house. If the power goes out, at least you can power your computer. Yeah. So little things like that, Ohio Environmental Council is lobbying for. And the other thing with the city is we have the 2030 pledge by buildings. For example, the Contemporary Art Center downtown has made a pledge to reduce energy use by 50% by 2030.
Chuck Lorre, are you concerned about AI farms and the like going in? What's the environmental concern there?
Well, like any energy use, it really should cost the people that use the energy the money to get the environment back to the way it was. If you're going to burn fossil carbon, you need to be responsible for the detrimental effects of fossil carbon. Right? Why can't we just why can't we just do that? Put the environment back to the way we found it.
Well, because, just by walking in a forest, you're damaging the environment, I guess. How pristine can we go back? I also look at the past. Go ahead. What's that?
I don't think walking in the forest is exactly.
Well, what I'm saying is you leave a footprint, right? As a former scouter, we find the campsite, we leave the campsite better than we found it, but there's still evidence that you were there. I guess how pristine do you want to make it when you go back? Just by us existing, we damage the environment.
Well, that's true. 9 billion people. It's a lot of effects.
A lot of footprints. A lot of footprints.
We've got our work cut out for us.
Where's the environment? Where's the environmental movement now, Chuck, on nuclear? I think that's one. I'm curious your take on this one as environmentalists. That back in the day, and I was young and I was a kid then. I remember fighting over 3 Mile Island approach and no nukes, no nukes, no nukes. And now we look at it going, well, Boy, that's a much cleaner alternative than fossil fuel, for sure. Maybe not as good as solar and wind, but that's limited in scale is what you can do with that. Whereas nuclear is pretty good. You mentioned these companies, and we're moving towards putting small nuclear reactors in and around these things so they can power themselves. Do you think that was a missed opportunity back in the day that we maybe should not have protested so much about that? Not that you were part of that, but I think as environmentalists, I love your take on it.
Well, once again, if you're going to create energy, you need to be responsible for the environmental harm that it causes. I mean, we need the natural environment. We're part of the natural environment.
Sure. Oh, we have to live here.
So nuclear energy may have to cost more, just like the fossil fuels. It's going to cost. What is it? Making solar panels it degrades the environment as well.
Sure.
We need to make energy more expensive so people will use less of it. That's kind of our problem.
Well, I suppose, but we also like things and we produce things. That means jobs, and now that's at odds with the economy. So if you make energy so cost prohibitive that it's so limited and so used, doesn't that hurt the human condition?
No, like I said, Germany and Japan, they deal with it. It's maybe they have a lot higher regulatory burdens than the U.S. does.
Yeah, but
we're lucky.
Yeah, well, we are lucky, but you look at again, here in America, it's about, we're a consumer-driven economy, and the GDP means, I think to a lot of people, probably a lot more than the environment, and that's probably news you don't want to hear, but I guess that's a reality. I don't know if that changes. He's Chuck Lorre, the chair of Greater Cincinnati Earth Coalition, the GCEC. Thanks so much for the time, Chuck. I enjoyed the conversation. Be well.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, the hardline reality is that we have to live on this planet. We are going to make a footprint no matter how lightly we tread. We also have to exist today, and we are married, of course, to fossil fuels for the time being, for our lifetime and our kids' life, and probably our great-grandkids' time for that matter, another 100-plus years. In that regard, though, can we do better? Sure, we should always be doing better. However, we do have the reality of the gross domestic product, and what we don't want to do is energy so expensive, it causes our economy to collapse. It causes us to lose jobs. That doesn't improve quality of life. As a matter of fact, I make a case that environmentalism goes out the window when you are trying to lift yourself up. Look at developing economies, and that's what's happening in developing economies. They don't care about the environment because they're trying to live to tomorrow. So they're not generally goods. They're not recycling when you're living hand to mouth. That is a luxury for first world countries. You don't want to slip backwards. Scott Sloan, 700 WLW.
Some scientists